Hello, everyone. Today, we're diving into a true story that'll leave you stunned, one that hit me like a freight train. Names and details have been changed to protect their privacy, but the pain that's all too real. I'm Susan, and this is the story of how my own children, Ryan and Mia, turned their backs on me after inheriting their father's millions. Can you imagine the people you raised? The ones you loved more than life itself, abandoning you when you need them most. What would you do if your kids left you penniless while they lived like kings? It's a betrayal that still stings. And I'm here to share every gut-wrenching moment. It was a chilly October morning when I first felt the ground shift beneath me. I'd been living in our old family home, the one my husband, Tom, and I built with sweat and dreams. Tom passed 2 years ago, leaving a void I thought I'd never fill. But I had Ryan and Mia, my anchors, or so I thought. That morning, I got a call from our lawyer, Mr. Grayson. His voice was heavy, like he was delivering bad news. "Susan," he said, "the estate's been finalized. The kids, they've made some choices." My heart sank. Choices? What did that mean? I drove to his office, my hands shaking on the wheel. When I sat down, Mr. Grayson slid a stack of papers across his desk. Tom's will. I knew he'd left everything his tech company, the investments, the millions to Ryan and Mia. I was never one for money. I just wanted us to stay a family. But the papers showed something else. Ryan and Mia had liquidated everything. The house, my home, was being sold. My small trust fund gone, redirected to their accounts. I stared at the numbers, my vision blurring. "They didn't tell you, did they, Mr. Grayson asked, his eyes full of pity. I tried calling Ryan first, straight to voicemail. Mia's phone rang, but she didn't pick up. I sent texts, emails, begging for an explanation. Nothing. Days turned into weeks, and my kids, the ones I'd rocked to sleep, vanished from my life. I was alone, with barely enough savings to cover rent. The betrayal was a knife in my chest, twisting every time I saw their faces in old photos. How could they do this? Was it greed? Anger? Had I failed them as a mother? The worst part wasn't the money. It was the silence. I'd wake up at night, replaying every moment of their childhood, wondering where I went wrong. Did I love them too much? Not enough I taught them to share? To car? But now they were living in mansions while I scraped by. The town started whispering. Neighbors gave me sad looks at the grocery store. "Have you heard from them?" they'd ask. I'd shake my head, forcing a smile. But inside, I was screaming. How could my own flesh and blood be so heartless? Then, one day, I saw a post on the neighborhood social media group. "Ungrateful kids abandon their mom after inheriting millions," it read. My stomach dropped. Someone had spilled the truth, and it was spreading like wildfire. Comments poured in disgusting. How could they? Poor Susan. I didn't know whether to feel relieved or humiliated. The world was watching, and my kids' betrayal was on full display. What kind of mother gets abandoned like this? And what kind of kids could justify it? Have you ever felt betrayed by someone you trusted completely? That's where my story begins. And trust me, it only gets crazier from here. Looking back, I can still feel the warmth of those early years with Ryan and Mia, when love was the currency that mattered most. As their mother, I poured everything into them, every ounce of energy, every sleepless night, every dream I had. I want you to understand who we were before the money tore us apart. Have you ever given so much of yourself to someone, only to wonder if they even remember? That's the ache I carry now, thinking of the family we used to be. When Ryan was born, I was 25, a young mom with no clue what I was doing. Tom and I were scraping by, living in a tiny apartment with leaky faucets. Ryan's cries kept us up all night, but his gummy smile made it worth it. I'd sing him lullabies, my voice cracking from exhaustion, promising him the world. Mia came 3 years later, a firecracker from day one. She'd toddle after Ryan, demanding to be included in his games. I'd watch them play in our cramped backyard, building forts out of cardboard boxes, and think, this is enough. We didn't have money, but we had each other. I worked part-time at a daycare, stretching every dollar to keep them fed and clothed. Tom was building his tech startup, often gone for days at conferences. The kids and I had our routines, pancake Sundays, story time at the library, tucking them in with prayers for their dreams. I taught them to say, please and thank you, to share their toys, to stand up for each other. When Ryan got bullied at school, I spent hours coaching him to be brave. When Mia struggled with math, I stayed up late making flashcards. Every sacrifice felt like an investment in their future. As they grew, so did Tom's business. By the time Ryan was in high school, we'd moved into a big house with a garden I loved tending. Money changed things: better schools, vacations, new clothes, but I tried to keep them grounded. I'd remind them, family comes first. We'd still have game nights, laughing over Monopoly until midnight. Ryan was the dreamer, always sketching inventions. Mia was the planner, organizing family events with military precision. I was so proud, believing we'd built something unbreakable. Even when Tom got sick, we rallied together. The kids were in their 20s, starting their careers. But they'd visit the hospital, holding his hand. I thought those moments bonded us forever. After Tom passed, I leaned on Ryan and Mia. They'd call to check in, bring takeout when I was too sad to cook. We're here. Mom, they'd say. I believed them. How could I not? They were my heart, walking outside my body, now sitting in my empty apartment. I wonder if those memories mean anything to them. Did they forget the nights I stayed up sewing their Halloween costumes? The times I drove hours to their college dorms with homemade cookies I gave them. Everything: love, time, faith, hoping they'd carry it forward. But when the millions came, it was like I vanished. Have you ever felt like the people you love rewrote your shared history? That's what hurts most. Not just the abandonment, but the erasure of who we were. I keep a photo of us on my nightstand, taken at Mia's graduation. We're smiling, arms around each other, the future bright. I look at it and ask, what changed? Was it the money? Or was it something I missed all along? As the town buzzes with gossip about my kid's betrayal, I'm left sifting through the past, trying to understand how my love wasn't enough to keep us together. The day Tom's will was read, I felt the first crack in our family's foundation, though I didn't know how deep it would run. Money has a way of revealing what's buried, doesn't it? Have you ever seen wealth turn love into something unrecognizable? That's what happened to us. And it started in a sterile lawyer's office, with Ryan and Mia's eyes glinting in a way I'd never seen before. It was a month after Tom's passing, and we were still raw with grief. I thought the will reading would be a formality. Tom had always been clear about his wishes. His tech company, now worth millions, was his legacy for the kids. I was fine with that. I'd never cared for extravagance. My only wish was to keep our home, the place where we'd raised Ryan and Mia, where Tom's laughter still echoed in the walls. But as Mr. Grayson read the terms, I sensed a shift. Ryan leaned forward, his jaw tight. Mia's fingers tapped her phone, her face unreadable. Tom left the bulk of his estate stocks, properties, the company to Ryan and Mia, split evenly. I was to receive a modest trust fund, enough to live comfortably, and the right to stay in our home. Fair. I thought, relieved we'd stay connected. But then Ryan spoke up, his voice sharp. What about the house's equity? Can we access it? I froze. The house, our home. Maya nodded, adding, we should consolidate the assets. Consolidate. They sounded like strangers. Not my kids. I tried to laugh it off. You don't mean selling the house, right? It's where we became a family. Ryan avoided my eyes, muttering about investment opportunities. Mia said, Mom, it's just practical. Practical. My heart pounded. I looked to Mr. Grayson, hoping he'd clarify, but he just adjusted his glasses, uncomfortable. The meeting ended with vague promises to talk later. But I left feeling like I'd lost something I couldn't name. Over the next weeks, Ryan and Mia grew distant. Calls went unanswered. Visits stopped. I'd drive by the company office, now under their control, and see their cars parked late. Were they avoiding me? I told myself they were busy, adjusting to their new roles. But then I got a letter from a real estate agent. Our home was listed for sale. My home. No one had told me. I called Ryan, my voice shaking. What's going on? He was curt. It's a business decision. Mom? Mia didn't even bother responding. I dug deeper, desperate for answers. A friend at the bank let slip that Ryan and Mia had redirected my trust fund into their accounts, claiming it was for estate efficiency. Efficiency. They'd left me with nothing but my savings, barely enough for a few months. I confronted them at the company office, my hands trembling. How could you do this without talking to me? Ryan snapped. We're protecting Dad's legacy. Mia added. You wouldn't understand the finances. Their words cut deeper than any knife. I wasn't their mother anymore. I was an obstacle. The rift was complete. They moved into sleek condos, their social media filled with yacht trips and designer clothes. I stayed in our home until the sale forced me out, my belongings packed into a tiny apartment. The kids I'd raised to value family were gone, replaced by strangers chasing wealth. Have you ever watched someone you love change overnight? That's what the inheritance did. It didn't just divide us. It erased the people I thought I knew. The moment I moved into that cramped apartment, the reality of my kids' abandonment hit like a tidal wave. Ryan and Mia didn't just take the money, they took my dignity, my security, my place in the world. Have you ever felt like the people you trusted most ripped your life apart and walked away? That's where I was, surrounded by boxes and silence, while my children lived like royalty. The apartment was a far cry from our family home. One bedroom, peeling paint, a faucet that dripped all night. I'd lie awake, listening to that drip, wondering how it came to this. I'd call Ryan and Mia, leaving voicemails that went unanswered. Please, just talk to me. I'd beg. Nothing. I checked their social media, a habit that broke my heart. Ryan posted about his new sports car. Mia showed off a Paris vacation. They were living the high life, while I counted pennies for groceries. The contrast was cruel. Like a slap every time I scrolled. I tried to keep up appearances. At the grocery store, I'd smile at neighbors, pretending everything was fine. But they knew. Whispers followed me. Her kids left her with nothing. I'd overhear snippets. Ungrateful brats. Poor Susan. The pity stung. But it was better than the alternative, admitting I'd lost my children to greed. I stopped going out as much, hiding from those knowing looks. My world shrank to that apartment, where memories of Ryan and Mia haunted me. One day, I found a letter slipped under my door. It was from Mia, but not the kind I'd hoped for. Cold, formal. It demanded I stop harassing them. Harassing my pleas for contact were harassment. It ended with a warning. We're moving on. Mom, you should too. I sank to the floor. The letter crumpled in my hand. My daughter, the girl I'd braided hair for, was telling me to disappear. Ryan didn't even bother writing. Their rejection was complete. And it left me hollow. I started piecing together their new lives from what I heard. Ryan was throwing lavish parties, schmoozing with investors. Mia had hired a publicist, branding herself as a self-made entrepreneur. Self-made Tom's millions were their springboard, and I was the collateral damage. They'd erased me, rewriting their story to exclude the mother who'd given them everything. Have you ever been erased by someone you love? It's a pain that doesn't fade. The worst was the loneliness. I'd sit at my tiny kitchen table, staring at old photos, Ryan's first bike ride, Mia's dance recitals. I'd raised them to be kind, to value family. But now, they were strangers. I'd ask myself, was it my fault? Maybe I'd been too soft, too trusting. But deep down, I knew it wasn't me. It was the money, twisting their hearts until they saw me as nothing but a burden. I stopped reaching out after Mia's letter. Not because I wanted to, but because I had no fight left. I was penniless, living on what little I'd saved from my part-time job before Tom died. The future looked bleak. No home, no family, no hope. I'd given my kids my all, and they'd left me with nothing but questions. How do you move on when your own children discard you? That's what I was grappling with, alone in that dingy apartment. As the world outside began to notice their betrayal, the day the truth exploded, I was blindsided. I'd grown used to the whispers, the pitying glances, but I never expected my family's shame to become a public spectacle. Have you ever had your private pain splashed across a stage for all to judge? That's what happened when my neighbor, Clara, decided to expose Ryan and Mia's betrayal, turning our quiet town into a cauldron of outrage. Clara lived across the street from our old home. She'd watched my kids grow up, brought cookies to our barbecues, and cried with me at Tom's funeral. I hadn't told her much about the inheritance mess. I was too ashamed. But she'd pieced it together. The sold house, my sudden move. Ryan and Mia's flashy new lives. It wasn't hard to connect the dots. One morning, I woke to my phone buzzing non-stop. Texts from neighbors, missed calls, a flood of notifications. My heart raced as I opened the neighborhood social media group. There it was. Clara's post. bold and unapologetic. Ungrateful kids abandoned their mom after inheriting millions, she wrote, detailing how Ryan and Mia had left me penniless while they flaunted their wealth. The post was a match to dry grass. Comments poured in, each one angrier than the last. Disgusting. How could they do this to Susan, one read. Another. Those kids need to be taught a lesson. People I barely knew shared stories of seeing Ryan's new car or Mia's designer bags, their outrage growing with every detail. Someone even posted screenshots of Mia's Instagram, her champagne-soaked posts juxtaposed with my reality. The group had thousands of members, and the post spread beyond our town. By noon, it had hundreds of shares, each one a dagger to my pride. I called Clara, my voice trembling. "Why didn't you talk to me first?" She was unapologetic. "Susan, people need to know. They're parading around like they earned it, while you're suffering. It's not right." I wanted to be angry, but part of me was relieved. The secret was out, and I wasn't carrying it alone anymore. Still, the exposure felt like a violation. My pain was now a headline, and I didn't know how to face it. Have you ever had your life laid bare for strangers to dissect? By evening, the story hit local news blogs. Millionaires abandoned. Mother screamed one headline. Reporters called, but I didn't answer. I wasn't ready to be a victim on display. At the grocery store, strangers approached me, offering hugs or angry rants about my kids. "We're with you, Susan," they'd say. It was comforting, but it also hurt. My children were the villains now, and I was the sainted mother. The truth wasn't that simple. But the world didn't care. Ryan and Mia stayed silent. But I heard through a friend they were furious. They'd hired a PR firm to manage the narrative, claiming Clara's post was exaggerated. That only fanned the flames. Online, people dug deeper, finding records of the house sale, the redirected trust fund. The more they uncovered, the worse it looked. Shame on them became the town's rallying cry. I felt a strange mix of vindication and guilt. These were my kids, after all. Had I raised them to be this cold? Or had the money corrupted them? Clara's post changed everything. It gave me allies, but it also made reconciliation feel impossible. The world was watching, judging, demanding justice. I just wanted my kids back. But now they were public enemies. What would you do if your family's mistakes became everyone's business? For me, it was a turning point, one that pushed me to face the wreckage of our family head-on. In the wake of Clara's exposé, I was drowning in a sea of public sympathy and private despair. My life had become a spectacle, but inside my tiny apartment, I was just a mother, grappling with loss. Have you ever had to rebuild yourself when everything you held dear was gone? That's where I found myself, scraping by, yet discovering glimmers of strength in the kindness of others. Money was tight. My savings dwindled, and I couldn't afford much beyond rent and basics. I took a part-time job at a local cafe, pouring coffee for people who whispered about my story. The work was exhausting, but it kept me busy. At night, I'd collapse onto my lumpy mattress, replaying Clara's post, the news headlines, the comments, calling my kids monsters. I wanted to hate Ryan and Mia, but I couldn't. They were still mine, even if they'd forgotten me. The pain was a constant weight, heavier than the bills piling up on my counter. Yet, amidst the struggle, there were lifelines. My co-worker, Linda, a single mum, noticed my tired eyes, and started bringing me leftovers from her kitchen. "You don't have to go through this alone," she'd say, her smile warm. Neighbors dropped off groceries or slipped cash under my door with notes. "We're rooting for you. Susan." One evening, Clara showed up with a quilt she'd sewn, tears in her eyes. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she said. "I just couldn't stand seeing them get away with it." I hugged her, grateful for her fierce loyalty. Even if her methods had shaken me, these small acts kept me afloat. But they couldn't fill the void left by Ryan and Mia. I'd walk past our old house, now someone else's, and feel my heart crack. I missed their laughter, their quirks, Ryan's terrible puns, Mia's obsession with organizing everything. I'd pray for them, asking God to soften their hearts. But doubt crept in. Had I failed them? Was there a moment I could have steered them differently? Have you ever questioned every choice you made for someone you love? The town's outrage grew louder. A local church organized a fundraiser for me, calling it Justice for Susan. I was mortified, but attended, stunned to see dozens of people, some I barely knew, donating money and sharing stories of their own family struggles. "You're not alone," a woman told me, her voice firm. "We've all been hurt by those we love." Their support was a balm, but it also sharpened my resolve. I couldn't just survive, I needed answers. I started writing letters to Ryan and Mia, not to send, but to process my grief. I poured out my love, my anger, my confusion. "Why did you shut me out?" I wrote. "What did I do to deserve this?" The letters became my therapy, a way to reclaim my voice. I also joined a community group for estranged parents, where I met others who understood my pain. Their stories of kids lost to addiction, pride, or greed gave me perspective. I wasn't the only one hurting. And that knowledge fueled my determination to keep going. By the time the fundraiser money helped me pay off some bills, I felt a spark of hope. I wasn't whole, but I was standing. The community's embrace showed me I had worth, even if my kids couldn't see it. Still, I knew this wasn't the end. The truth about Ryan and Mia's actions was out, and I sensed a confrontation looming. What would you do when the people who broke you are finally within reach for me? It was time to face the storm head-on. The confrontation I'd been dreading came like a summer storm, sudden, fierce, and impossible to ignore. After months of silence, Ryan and Mia finally faced me. And the truths that spilled out shook everything I thought I knew. Have you ever stood before someone you love, searching for the person they used to be, only to find a stranger? That's what I faced. Heart-pounding. As I met my children in a moment that would redefine us. It started with a call from Clara. "They're at the community center," she said, her voice urgent. The town's demanding answers, and they showed up. The center was hosting a public forum, sparked by the fundraiser and the ongoing outrage over Clara's post. I hadn't planned to go too raw, too public, but something pulled me. I needed to see them, to understand why they'd done this. I drove over, my hands trembling, the weight of the town's eyes already pressing down. The room was packed, buzzing with anger. Ryan and Mia stood at the front, flanked by a slick-looking PR guy. Ryan looked older, his jaw tight, while Mia's polished exterior couldn't hide her unease. I slipped into the back, unnoticed, my heart racing. The moderator, a local pastor, called for order. "We're here to hear the truth," he said. "Susan deserves that." My name hung in the air, and I felt every gaze shift. Ryan spoke first. His voice clipped. "This has been blown out of proportion. We didn't abandon our mother. We made business decisions." The crowd murmured, unconvinced. Mia jumped in, her tone defensive. "Mom wasn't equipped to handle Dad's estate. We protected it by leaving me penniless." I wanted to scream, but I stayed silent, gripping my chair. The PR guy handed out glossy statements, claiming they'd offered me support I'd refused. Lies. The room erupted, people shouting. "Shame on you." I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I stood, my voice shaking but clear. "You sold my home? You took my trust fund? You never even called? How is that protection?" The crowd hushed, all eyes on us. Ryan's face reddened. Mia looked away. For a moment, I saw a flicker of the kids I'd raised, but it vanished. Ryan snapped. "You never understood Dad's vision," Mia added. "You held us back. Mom, we had to move on." Then came the bombshell. A neighbor, Tom's old friend, stood up. "Tell them about the will's condition," he said. My stomach dropped. Condition. He revealed Tom had added a clause the kids only inherited if they ensured my financial security. They'd ignored it, forging documents to redirect my funds. Gasps filled the room. I stared at Ryan and Mia, waiting for a denial. But the silence was deafening. The PR guy stammered. But the damage was done. Mia broke first, her voice cracking. "We thought you'd squander it. Mom, Dad always said you weren't good with money." Ryan nodded. "Quieter now. We wanted to honor him, not you." Their words were a gut punch. They'd justified their betrayal with a lie they'd told themselves, painting me as the problem. I saw it then, the resentment they'd harbored, the distance that had grown long before the money. Have you ever realized the people you love misjudged you completely? The crowd demanded accountability. But I just felt empty. I walked out, their voices fading behind me. They weren't the kids I'd raised anymore, but I wasn't ready to give up on them. The truth was out, raw and ugly, and it changed everything. What would you do when the ones who hurt you finally show their cards? For me, it was a moment to grieve and to decide what came next. The fallout from that confrontation left me raw. But it also lit a fire in our town, a fire that demanded justice and gave me a chance to rebuild. Have you ever seen a community rally to right a wrong? That's what happened. And it carried me toward a resolution I never expected. One that taught me about forgiveness, family, and starting over. The days after the community center showdown were chaotic. The revelation about Ryan and Mia ignoring Tom's will sparked a wave of action. Local lawyers, outraged by the forged documents, offered to represent me pro bono. They filed a lawsuit to reclaim my trust fund and enforce the will's conditions. The case moved fast, fueled by public pressure. News outlets picked it up, and soon, Ryan and Mia's pristine image crumbled. Their PR team couldn't keep up. The truth was too damning. I didn't want revenge, but I needed security. The town made sure I got it. Within weeks, a judge ruled in my favor. My trust fund was restored. along with a portion of the estate to cover my living expenses. The house was gone, but the money gave me stability, a new apartment. Modest, but mine. Ryan and Mia faced penalties. Their inheritance reduced to settle the legal fees, and my claim. They issued a public apology, scripted and stiff. But I didn't care. The victory wasn't about their words. It was about standing up for myself. Have you ever fought for what you deserved? Even when it hurt, the community didn't stop there. Clara and the church group organized a welcome home party for my new place, filling it with warmth, homemade food, laughter, even a potted plant from Linda. Your family, Clara said, hugging me. Their support showed me I wasn't alone, even without my kids. I started volunteering at the community center, helping others navigate family struggles. It gave me purpose, a way to heal by lifting others up. I found strength in their stories. Proof that love could endure betrayal. Ryan and Mia stayed distant, but small cracks appeared. Mia sent a letter, not an apology, but a step. I didn't realize how much we hurt you. She wrote. Ryan called once, his voice hesitant, asking about my new place. I kept my responses short, guarding my heart. Reconciliation wasn't here yet, but the door was open. I prayed for them daily, hoping time would soften their pride. What would you do if the ones who broke you reached out? Even faintly, I chose patience, believing love could outlast greed. The biggest lesson was clear: family isn't just blood. It's the people who show up. My town became my family. Their kindness, a lifeline. I'm not whole, but I'm hopeful. I've learned to value myself, to fight for what's right, and to trust that justice finds a way. What do you think can a family this broken ever heal? Share your thoughts below. And let's keep this conversation going. If my story moved you, like, comment, or share your own together. We can remind the world what family really means. Really, this story began with a mother's heartbreak. Susan, abandoned by her children, Ryan and Mia, after they inherited millions. Their greed stripped her of home and security, leaving her penniless while they lived lavishly. Clara's exposé ignited public outrage, exposing their betrayal. Susan's struggle revealed her resilience, buoyed by community support. The confrontation at the community center unveiled painful truths Ryan and Mia had ignored their father's will, forging documents to cut Susan out. The town rallied, securing justice through a lawsuit that restored Susan's trust fund. Though reconciliation with her kids remains distant, faint gestures from Mia and Ryan offer hope. Susan found strength in new purpose and community, proving family extends beyond blood. This tale underscores loyalty, forgiveness, and the power of standing up. What would you do in Susan's shoes? Share your story below, and let's discuss what family means to you.